Hello and welcome back to Craft Aquatic. I'm Matt G. In this video, I'll be giving you a tour of what I've come to refer to as the Rack and Rubble Frag system. This propagation area in our basement was set up using the leftover tanks and equipment from previous builds. I specifically designed it to grow SPS and LPS coral in one system, using two separate tanks, or zones that have been plumbed together to share the same volume of water. The Rack and Rubble Frag system has been set up for about a year now. I'm using this 34-gallon Solana that's been gutted and modded, along with this 15-gallon long that has been drilled out and had an overflow installed into the back of it. The tanks are placed at different levels on their stand so that water can easily flow from one to another. It's kind of like a drop-off tank design, except for the fact that these tanks are plumbed together rather than physically joined together. The plumbing is all Schedule 40 and wrapped in insulation to keep the water warm when flowing from one tank to another. I used unions and valves when assembling the pipes to make disassembly and maintenance easy. The water flows out of the 34-gallon cube through this overflow that's been installed into it, through this 4-inch filter sock that's clipped onto the side of the 15-gallon tank, and down into the Sump, which is a 13-gallon Rubbermaid container. The water's flowing through this bag of carbon, really important when you have all different sorts of coral housed together. This is an AHIM 1048, 160-gallon per hour return pump that sends the water back up into the 34-gallon cube. Here's the yellow Scopus tang in the cube. He does a great job keeping the racks free of algae. I built the stand for the 15-gallon out of pallets, which I hope to do more of in the future. And I use it to store filter socks and supplements underneath. Both stands are painted gray. The stand for the Solana has been gutted. It is the original stand that came with the tank. This cutting board is really important for fragging. And then next to it we have the area that houses alkalinity, calcium, magnesium solution, along with the solutions that are used for the dosers. The system actually uses dosers. I know a lot of people with frag tanks just will hand dose, but I find it a lot easier just to dial in whatever I need to supplement rather than trying to remember to come down into the basement and do it by hand. So we use just a cheap Home Depot timer that has a little battery backup built into it, so if we lose power we don't have to reset the system. Here again is that 13-gallon Rubbermaid container, and this is our return line with a built-in check valve to prevent backflow. This is a light to grow some Chaetomorpha in a little area in the back corner, and this is a gravity-fed float valve which I purchased off eBay. The auto top-off float valve is gravity-fed from this RODI holding tank. And here's our 4-stage RODI with 2 additional canisters of DI resin and a booster pump. The RODI is switched on for a half hour each day by this timer, which triggers this solenoid valve to feed the filter. And this is a bypass if we want to make a large volume of water and we don't want to use the solenoid valve to do that. Here we have a split where the water goes up to the big tank and also into the RODI holding container, and we can shut that off if we need to make a large volume of water in one place or the other. All of our freshwater holding containers can shut off the RODI with a float switch. For our skimmer, we're using this vintage Aquasea Nano taken from the 7.5-gallon SPS cube. I'll put a link to that in the description. And it does get a little hot in the summer, even in this basement, so this fan keeps the tank at a nice cool temperature. This is a little backup air pump that comes on when the power goes out. It's always good to have some sort of a backup. And a little fish that my son made for me out of melting beads. Lights up nice in the blue light. For flow in the 15-gallon Rubble or LPS tank, we're using these Hydor 240-gallon per hour circulation pumps. And in the Rack or SPS system, I'm using this MaxiJet SureFlow with a 1600 mod kit. Puts out a ton of flow. And in addition, this first generation MP10, which adds nice even flow to the middle of the SPS tank. The rack system where the SPS is housed has roughly 10 times the turnover of the rubble system where the LPS is housed. This ensures optimum flow requirements for these very different types of coral housed in the same volume of water. When deciding on the lighting system, I needed to consider the high power requirements of the SPS coral versus the low power requirements of the LPS coral. For the LPS coral, I purchased this light with 18 blue drivers off of eBay. It was something like $35. Hung it up with these zip ties, and it's plenty of light for the LPS coral. They're growing, they're healthy, they're happy. Here's the LED power supply mounted up in the bracket. And for the SPS coral, I hung these Mars Aqua LED black box lights with these zip ties, and then also the safety wire in case something happens to those zip ties. I don't want those lights falling into the tank. I chose to use two black box LED units side by side because of the nice even blanket of light they put out. Like T5 fixtures, there's nothing like a wall of LEDs above an SPS aquarium. I find that some of the light from the black box LED spills over into the LPS tank, which along with the blue strip offers ideal power for these coral. Here you can see where the rack and the SPS system really comes into play, where I've placed the coral at 3 different tiers or levels based on their flow and lighting needs. The term rubble in the LPS system really came from the fact that I started this tank with mostly broken up live rock. I didn't have any racks in there at the time, but have since added a few small kind of low level racks for the frag plugs that I've started to make. As always, thank you for watching Craft Aquatic. If you liked this video, please do give it a thumbs up and subscribe. It really does motivate us to make more videos. And with that said, we have tons more videos coming down the pike, so if you want to hear about them when they're released, make sure to hit that notification bell. Happy reefing!